Alright guys, if you've been following along with my project up till now, you may be wondering what transmission am I going to actually put in the car. The transmission that I'm going to run is the exact same transmission that was in it previously. And to be honest, it was the best transmission I'd ever had in the car. It doesn't look like much, pretty nondescript. At one point I had broke the tail shaft on it, and I replaced it. I replaced it with another one that I had. I used to have, or I still do, I have a lot of Torque Flight parts because I've broke my fair share of Torque Flights over the years. Mainly learning lessons and learning what you need to make them survive. We're going to take the front drum out. We're going to replace it with that John Cope billet front drum. It's the fully loaded version. We did a whole video on my wife buying that because she didn't want to see a transmission explosion in the Fury. So it's kind of a cool video if you haven't seen it, talking about this front drum. But in this video we're just going to install it. It's going to be as simple as possible. I'm not going to go into the whole thing. I'm just going to replace the drum and then readjust the bands and go from there. Probably put a new filter in it and just service it, and that's it. So let's go ahead and take this thing apart. Alright, wow, I just went down a transmission rabbit hole. I'm not gonna lie, I was a bit naive thinking that I was gonna be able to just swap in that billet drum and my transmission would be good to go to handle this 1,000 horsepower motor that I just built. Hopefully 1,000 horsepower motor. Okay, so here's the thing. There are no production parts that will survive an engine like that in a car like that. The car's too heavy, the engine makes too much horsepower. Stock parts will not survive. So, I didn't know that. They've always been fine for me. As long as you did a 4-gear planetary set and, you know, whatever heavy duty production parts were available, and then upgrade your clutches and, you know, put a high pressure valve body in it and a trans brake. I thought that you could probably get away like that. And as it turns out, none of that stuff works. I was completely naive to the fact that this transmission needs a lot of work in order to put up with that kind of abuse. So, that being said, what I did is I binge watched all John Cope's videos. all the 46RE stuff, all the 727 stuff, and pretty much got the skinny on what it's going to take to make this thing do what we need it to do. So what I did is I just went up to my office, clicked on the YouTube, and started watching all the videos. Had the older catalog in hand that John sent when we got the billet drum, and I just started going through, highlighting page by page everything that I needed to get this thing built the right way. Just on and on and on. Including, I mean, I got everything from John. I got the ballistic blanket to wrap around the transmission. I got all the billet roller stuff, all the billet servo stuff. I got everything coming. So here's what we're gonna do. Since all the internals are out of the transmission right now, it's really light. And so what I thought I would do is just bolt the tail shaft housing back onto the case, and I'll set the pan back on it, the few bolts or whatever, and then just put it up to the back of the engine and get the transmission sitting up in there in its proper location, so that way we can build the transmission mount. The years ago I made a solid transmission mount for the car, and after I did that, well, here's the thing. I put a motor plate in it, which was amazing. I loved how the car, I liked how it made the chassis feel. I liked how the car 60 footed and all that. Once I put the motor plate in it, it was a win-win thing. But I made a mistake, and I made a solid rear transmission mount. And when I bolted that in, I started having problems almost immediately. That was a mistake. So this time around, what I'm going to do is I'm going to convert the transmission mount to the later style spool mount. Aftermarket parts suppliers have them in polyurethane. So what we're gonna do is, maybe I can just quickly draw up something that would work on paper, and then whittle something out with what we have laying around. I'm sure I got enough little pieces of scrap steel to come up with some sort of a transmission mount. So let's do that next. All right, here we go. what happens when you call up John Cope from Cope Racing Transmissions and you say, hey, I need all the stuff. Whatever it takes to make this 727 survive, that's what I need. So let's open this box up and see what we have.